My girlfriend gave my gaming PC to her brother as a present, so I packed her bags and told her to leave. I, 28M, have been living with my girlfriend, 26F, for the past 2 years in my house that I bought before we started dating. Our relationship was going great until a series of events unfolded that made me question everything I thought I knew about her. I'm a dedicated PC gamer and built my dream gaming setup last year, investing close to $4,000 in top-of-the-line components. I saved for months and did extensive research to create the perfect build. My girlfriend never showed much interest in gaming, but she seemed supportive of my hobby. Last week, I came home from a 3-day business trip to find my gaming setup completely gone. At first, I thought we'd been robbed and was about to call the police when my girlfriend casually mentioned she had given it to her younger brother, 19M, as a birthday present. Her exact words were, "Oh, I gave your computer to my brother. He really wanted a gaming PC for his birthday, and since you have a good job, I figured you could just build another one." I stood there in complete shock as she continued explaining how her brother had been talking about wanting a gaming PC for months, and she thought it would be a nice gesture from both of us. She didn't even consult me before making this decision about my property that I spent months saving for. When I confronted her about it, her response was even more shocking. She said, "Well, we're practically married anyway, so what's yours is mine. Plus, you're always playing games instead of spending time with me, so I thought this would be good for our relationship too." I demanded she get the PC back immediately, but she refused, saying she couldn't take back a gift and that I was being selfish and materialistic. She then revealed that she had given her brother my peripheral devices too, my mechanical keyboard, gaming mouse, and ultra-wide monitor. What made it worse was that when I called her brother directly, he had the audacity to laugh and say, "Finders keepers, man. My sister gave it to me fair and square. If you want it back, you'll have to buy it from me." He then demanded $5,000 for the return of my property, claiming that's what it was worth to him. My girlfriend's family started bombarding me with messages, calling me selfish for wanting to take back a gift from a teenager. Her mother even called to lecture me about how I should be honored to be considered part of their family and that real men provide for their family. Their entitlement was absolutely staggering. I decided I'd had enough. While my girlfriend was at work the next day, I gathered all her belongings and packed them neatly in boxes and suitcases. I called her brother one last time and recorded the conversation where he again tried to extort money from me for my own property. I then filed a police report for theft, providing them with the serial numbers of all my components. I had kept them for warranty purposes, and a recorded conversation. When my girlfriend came home, she found all her belongings packed and me calmly sitting in the living room. Before she could say anything, I informed her that I had filed a police report and that she had until the end of the day to get my PC back, or I would press charges against both her and her brother for theft. I also told her that regardless of what happened with the PC, we were done, and she needed to move out immediately. She broke down crying, saying she didn't think it was that big of a deal and that I was overreacting. She tried to guilt-trip me by saying she had nowhere to go, but I remained firm. I reminded her that she had freely admitted to taking my property without permission and giving it away, which is theft, plain and simple. Her next move showed me exactly who she really was. Instead of taking responsibility, she called her father, who showed up at my house an hour later with 2 of his friends. They tried to intimidate me, suggesting that things might get difficult for me if I went through with a police report. Her father, attempting to play the role of a tough guy, said he knew important people in town and could make my life very uncomfortable. I calmly took out my phone and started recording, asking them to repeat their threats. They immediately changed their tune, with her father claiming they just wanted to talk things out like family. I informed them that they were trespassing on my property and had exactly 1 minute to leave before I called the police. Seeing that their intimidation tactics weren't working, they left, but not before her father warned me that I'd regret this. Later that evening, my girlfriend's brother finally cracked under pressure from the police investigation and returned my PC. However, I discovered he had already started taking it apart to sell some components. The case was scratched, the GPU had been removed, and several cables were damaged. He claimed he was just looking at how it worked. My now ex-girlfriend tried one last manipulation tactic. She revealed that she had told her entire family we were secretly engaged, we weren't, and that's why she felt entitled to make decisions about my property. She had apparently been telling them for months that we were planning a wedding. She begged me to play along with her lie, saying she'd be humiliated if her family found out the truth. That's when pieces of the puzzle started falling into place. Over the past few months, she had been borrowing money from her family members, claiming it was for our wedding fund. She had taken several $1,000s from her parents and various relatives. She had also been using my name to make promises to her family about helping them financially in the future. I decided to set the record straight. I created a detailed email explaining the situation and sent it to her entire family, attaching photos of the damage done to my PC, the police report, and the recordings of their threats. I made it clear that there was never any engagement, and any promises made by her in my name were completely fabricated. The fallout was immediate and intense. Her family members who had invested in her non-existent wedding were furious. It turned out she had collected over $15,000 from various relatives for wedding expenses. Her brother, faced with potential criminal charges, had to come clean about how she had manipulated him too, promising him that I had agreed to give him my PC and that she would handle any fallout. My ex-girlfriend's carefully constructed web of lies completely unraveled. Her family's attitude shifted dramatically when they realized they had been conned. Her own mother called me to apologize, admitting that her daughter had been lying to them for months about our relationship. Even her father, who had tried to threaten me earlier, sent a formal written apology, offering to pay for any damages to my PC. The police were particularly interested in the financial fraud aspect of the situation. It turned out this wasn't the first time she had pulled something like this. They found evidence of similar scams in her past, where she had exploited relationships for financial gain. She had managed to keep these incidents quiet through emotional manipulation and guilt tripping. The situation took an even more bizarre turn when I discovered she had been running a side scam using photos of my gaming setup. She had been posting on social media about building custom gaming PCs and taking deposits from people using pictures of my setup as examples of her work. Several people had paid her deposits ranging from $500 to $2,000 for gaming PCs they never received. When confronted with this evidence, she tried to blame it all on her brother, claiming he had forced her to participate in the scam. However, bank records showed all the money had gone directly into her personal account, and the scam had started months before she gave my PC to her brother. Her family was mortified. They had spent years defending her questionable behavior, always believing her elaborate excuses and manipulative stories. Now they were facing the reality that their daughter had not only scammed them, but had also been scamming strangers using my property as bait. The police investigation revealed even more. She had opened several credit cards in her brother's name without his knowledge, using his personal information that she had access to as his sister. She had maxed out these cards, leaving him with over $20,000 in debt. Her brother was devastated when he found out he had been genuinely manipulated by her, believing all her lies about our engagement and my supposed generosity. She finally showed up at my house one last time, but this time with a completely different attitude. Gone was the entitled girlfriend who thought she could give away my possessions. Instead, she was desperate, begging me to drop the charges and claiming she would pay back everyone she had scammed. She even offered to take out a loan to buy me a new, better gaming PC. I refused to negotiate. I'd already provided all the evidence to the police, and the investigation was well underway. Her victims had been contacted, and many were pressing charges. Her brother, now facing the consequences of her identity theft, had also decided to press charges against her. The final nail in the coffin came when one of her previous boyfriends reached out to me. He shared a similar story of how she had sold his car while he was away on a business trip, claiming they had discussed it and agreed to use the money for their future together. She had apparently been pulling these kinds of scams for years, always managing to avoid consequences through manipulation and lies. Her entire facade crumbled spectacularly. The police arrested her for multiple counts of fraud, theft, and identity theft. Her family, finally seeing her true colors, refused to bail her out. Her brother, who had initially been an antagonist in my story, ended up becoming one of the key witnesses against her. The courts ordered her to pay restitution to all her victims, including her own family members. She was sentenced to 18 months in prison for the multiple fraud charges and identity theft. The judge was particularly harsh given her history of similar scams and the calculated nature of her crimes. In the months that followed, I rebuilt my gaming setup, this time with even better security measures. Her brother, trying to make amends, helped me repair some of the damage he had caused to my original PC. He turned out to be a decent kid who had been manipulated by his sister his entire life. He's now working to rebuild his credit and pay off the debt she left him with. Her family has completely cut ties with her. They were humiliated not just by her actions, but by their own behavior in enabling her for so long. Her father personally came to apologize for his attempts at intimidation, admitting that he had always suspected something was off about his daughter, but had chosen to ignore the signs. The most surprising development came from the gaming community. When the story of her PC scam got out, several local gaming groups organized a fundraiser to help her victims who had lost money thinking they were buying custom gaming PCs. It was heartening to see the community come together to help people who had been scammed. I later learned that her pattern of behavior had started in her teens. She would take things from family members, sell them, and then create elaborate stories to explain their disappearance. Her family had always covered for her, paying back victims and making excuses. This enabling had only encouraged her to escalate her scams over the years. The police found evidence of at least 12 similar incidents where she had sold or given away other people's property, always with a manipulative story to justify her actions. In each case, she had managed to avoid serious consequences through a combination of lies, emotional manipulation, and help from her family. During her sentencing, the judge noted that this was one of the most calculated cases of systematic fraud and manipulation they had seen. Her own lawyer admitted that she showed signs of being a compulsive liar with possible sociopathic tendencies. Looking back, there were red flags I had ignored. Small lies that I'd caught her in but dismissed, inconsistencies in her stories about her past, and the way she would always manipulate situations to her advantage. She had a talent for making her victims feel like they were the ones in the wrong. The experience taught me valuable lessons about trust and the importance of maintaining clear boundaries in relationships. It also showed me how enablers can be just as problematic as the primary abuser, as her family's constant coverage of her crimes had only allowed her behavior to escalate. As for my ex-girlfriend, she's currently serving her sentence and has been ordered to undergo psychological evaluation and counseling. Her family has finally stopped enabling her behavior and is instead focusing on helping her brother recover from the financial damage she caused him. The whole experience changed my perspective on relationships and trust. While I haven't sworn off dating, I'm much more attentive to red flags and inconsistencies in behavior. Sometimes the biggest betrayals don't come as sudden surprises, but as the culmination of smaller deceptions we choose to ignore.